It's now time for Wiltfong Whiparound. Our director of recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, joining us with the latest from the trail. Steve, we will start with the five-star offensive tackle, David Sanders, the top player in the 2025 class. He'll be visiting Clemson this weekend for a huge showdown with FSU. Still a year to go before he can put that pen to paper, but where did the Tigers stand with his recruitment?
They're one of the front runners for David Sanders. This was the program that he has said has been his favorite school since he was a kid. His bathroom was decked out in Clemson memorabilia, and he was the first prospect that Dabo Swinney and his staff have offered in this junior class. And he has told me that he loves the program in general. Everything about Clemson fits me, my personality, family. It just gives a home vibe. I just enjoy being around the people at Clemson. Everyone there has a genuine heart. Every time I go up, my family, we seem to have a great connection with Coach Austin and Coach Swinney. Georgia is a major contender here. There's been times where I've thought that Georgia has been the leader. He likes Alabama a whole lot. Michigan is a program on the rise here. He's had a great visit to Ohio State. A lot of contenders, but Clemson taking a backseat to nobody at this point in the process for David Sanders.
It's a jam-packed week 4 in college football, and there might not be a bigger game, Steve, than Notre Dame, Ohio State in South Bend. One of the headliners among that visitor list is Davis Andrews, the safety from the state of Utah, who had been leaning towards the Irish early on in the process. It seemed like BYU and Utah have maybe made up some ground. What's the pulse as Davis Andrews returns to South Bend this weekend?
Yeah, Blair, you and I have been working this story together. We have crystal balls on the Irish, not sleeping on Utah in particular. And we think a decision is coming soon for him. But this visit to Notre Dame for the USC game has been on the books for a while. And when you talk to him about what he's looking for in a school, he says he wants to be comfortable. He wants to feel loved by the coaches. He wants to feel like he fits in the locker room and it's being a place where he can thrive. And he sees all those things at Notre Dame. You know, talking to him in the past, he said that the environment is unique. The people are awesome. He's getting a lot of attention from Coach Freeman and the staff. And as Notre Dame tries to put the finishing touches on a recruiting class that ranks number 7 nationally, this is a guy that they've coveted as long as anybody in the 2024 class. And I think that they're hoping that he comes in, feels this great atmosphere, ESPN College Game Day, the fans, the sellout crowd, the top 10 showdown with Ohio State, that this is something that he'll want to jump in moving forward. Notre Dame's in great position. This weekend they have a chance to really solidify their spot atop the list.
Now, Notre Dame, Ohio State also battling on the recruiting trail for a lot of the same prospects. Both schools right now have a top 10 class in 2024. Notre Dame ranks number 7 in 2025. Meanwhile, the Buckeyes still looking for their second commitment in that class. So who are some prospects attending the game this Saturday that are looking at both schools?
I think we know Ohio State will be all right long-term in 2025. These are guys, Mark Zachary, top 247 cornerback from Indianapolis, Ben Davis. This is one where Notre Dame and Ohio State are definitely battling on the trail. Georgia's in there, Michigan, Cincinnati, to name a few others. But when I saw him play last Friday, he was wearing Ohio State gloves. He's extremely excited about his opportunity with the Buckeyes. But Notre Dame, that's another program that checks the boxes that he's looking for. You know, when he talks about the football, the national stage, competing at the highest level, and then the academics, that's something that's very important to him. And Notre Dame has made a big impression on Mark Zachary IV. And then Christopher Burgess Jr., a linebacker out of Chicago, Simeon. Notre Dame views Chicago as its backyard. They were one of the first programs to offer Burgess. They had him on campus in June for practice, where he told me it was an intense practice. He loved the competitiveness of it. He's really hit it off with Marcus Freeman and Al Washington and that staff. But an Ohio State offer definitely was a big needle mover for him as well. He's excited about the Buckeyes. So this is an opportunity for both Mark Zachary and Christopher Burgess to see one of their favorite programs battle against each other. And it's an opportunity for one of them to maybe gain some inches on the other in this process with their showing on the field.
Penn State's whiteout also takes place this weekend as they host Iowa. James Franklin and company are putting the finishing touches on their class. 24 commitments already here in this 2024 cycle. Three-star edge Jalen Harvey out of the state of Maryland will be one of the big visitors to make it out to campus this week. Where do things stand, Steve, with Penn State and Jalen Harvey?
Well, there were times where I thought he was close to committing to Penn State. A recent visit to USC certainly made things interesting. You've had schools like Florida trying to get into the picture. And then this is a young man that tweeted this week at Deion Sanders in Colorado. So he wants to hear more from the Buffaloes. But just regarding Penn State, he has said the environment is unreal every time he goes up there, where there's not going to be a better environment in college football than the one on Saturday for a whiteout crowd in a top 25 matchup against Iowa. He's got a strong connection with Penn State. Penn State has recruited him as hard as any player that they've recruited this cycle. There's no question they are one of his top schools. They are just trying to bring it home right now.
James Franklin and his staff looking ahead to 2025 as well. They're hosting three-star running back Tyke Hayes, four-star athlete Brady O'Hara, and most notably, five-star quarterback Bryce Underwood, the top quarterback in that class. Where does Penn State stand in the recruitment of all three of these guys?
Well, for Hayes and O'Hara, I think they lead. Our colleague Brian Doan, 24/7 Sports national analyst, has predicted Hayes to Penn State going into his upcoming commitment date next week. He was at Penn State's season opening win over West Virginia in prime time, now expected back this weekend. This looks like it's really setting up well for the Nittany Lions. This is a prolific back that rushed for over 2,000 yards and 33 touchdowns as a junior. Also has the traits to play in the secondary, 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. As a junior, this guy does it all for one of the top high school football programs in his state. And then Brady O'Hara, I've had a crystal ball on Penn State for him, a 6'6", 230-pound athlete recruit that Penn State likes as a tight end since he visited back in the spring. He just loves everything about Penn State, from the atmosphere to the football tradition to the academics to his relationship with Ty Howell, and seeing how Penn State tight ends have thrived under James Franklin. They're in great position with both of those guys. And then Bryce Underwood, they're trying to make a move. Now, they had Bryce Underwood and his family on campus early in the calendar year where he was offered in person. Coach Danny O'Brien has done a really good job of staying in regular contact with Bryce Underwood and his family. They know it's a special place. They've been there before. They've seen what Coach Franklin has done there. And this is another opportunity for them to get up there and watch Penn State play and see if the Nittany Lions can't make a move on a few programs that we know are in great position, like LSU. He's going to get back to LSU for the Auburn game. Michigan, where he's been several times, local campus nearby. And then Colorado, he's fresh off that trip to Colorado last weekend where him and his family were blown away by what they saw in Boulder. But Penn State, again, going to have a fantastic atmosphere. Bryce Underwood and a couple of his teammates are going to leave Friday night after his game and head towards State College for what should be an exciting Saturday.
You mentioned LSU, Steve, and they have a big opportunity this weekend against Arkansas in that nighttime atmosphere down in Baton Rouge. Five-star Terry Bussey, 2025 quarterback, George McIntyre are two of the top players that will be in attendance. Where do things stand with both of those players as it pertains to LSU?
Well, the 24/7 Sports crystal ball favors Texas A&M for Terry Bussey, the #1 ranked athlete in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. I am one of the predictions in favor of the Aggies, but LSU is a program that you can't sleep on in this recruitment. He's always been excited about the Tigers. This is an official visit that has been planned for a while that he looks forward to. When you talk to people around Baton Rouge, I think they think they have more than a puncher's chance to ultimately land Terry Bussey. And then with George McIntyre, we talked about obviously LSU's position with Bryce Underwood. They're a front runner for George McIntyre as well. Quarterbacks coach Joe Sloan has prioritized George McIntyre, talks to him a bunch. He loves, every time he goes to LSU, he says it's a great time. He's really clicked with Brian Kelly on those visits, and he likes the resources that LSU has poured into quarterback development, from virtual reality to walk-through rooms to cognitive testing that they do with their players. He has said there's not a resource they don't have for a player that a player can't ask for. So Joe Sloan, one of the best recruiters in the country at the position, finds the time to communicate regularly with Bryce Underwood and George McIntyre, and LSU's got a great chance to land both of those guys here in 2025.
Staying in SEC country, four-star running back Daniel Hill out of Meridian, Mississippi, was ready to announce his commitment back in August, but decided to postpone it. Well, this weekend, he travels to Tuscaloosa for that top 15 Bama-Ole Miss matchup. What did the Tide's chances, Steve, with Hill look like at this point?
Fantastic. They got a great chance to ultimately land him. I think there were times where I would have given the edge to South Carolina. You're certainly not sleeping on the Gamecocks there. Tennessee's in the picture. He's going to visit them next weekend when they play South Carolina, and then Mississippi State hanging around in that recruitment. But Alabama's close to home. They love the running back tradition under Nick Saban, the program stature in general under Coach Saban. Those are all things that excite Daniel and his family. Proximity is great. It's an easy place for them to get to from Meridian, Mississippi. And so Alabama right now has a lot working for themselves in this recruitment. It's an opportunity to take on an Ole Miss team in a big game and make a statement that, hey, we dropped one to Texas, but we are still Alabama. We're still in the hunt to win the national championship, and do that in front of Daniel Hill, who's excited about that program for those reasons.
Working our way out to the West Coast, a couple of big Pac-12 matchups. Oregon hosts Colorado, Utah hosts UCLA, and there are some big names on those visitor lists, Steve. Who are some that you'll be keeping your eye on?
Well, let's start with Utah, Blair. They got some quarterbacks coming in that they've offered in the junior class. Luke Hago, Wyatt Becker, Steele Pizzella. Those guys are going to be there. Top 247 linebacker, Matoi Tagoai. Did I say that right, Blair? You're
it's Matai Tongiai.
Yes, they love him. Taj Crutchfield, and then of course a lot of their in-state targets, with the exception of Davis Andrews, will be on campus for that one. And then Oregon, it's a big visit list. They're going to have some elite prospects in 2024, 2025, and 2026 on campus. For more on that, head over to Duck Territory. But three guys to talk about for Oregon. Jericho Johnson, top 247 defensive lineman, one of the most coveted players in the position at the defensive line position in the country. One of my favorite interior players in the land. Going to be back at Oregon. I think that they are battling Washington for him. USC and Utah are in the top 4 for Jericho Johnson, but Oregon with an opportunity for what is going to be an amazing atmosphere out there at Autzen Stadium for Oregon to continue racking up equity in the Jericho Johnson recruitment. I think they have a great chance to land him. They would love to have him help them take the next step as a program. And then top 247 running back Jason Brown. 24/7 Sports Crystal Ball has favored Michigan State. Now, Oregon has been near the top or at the top of his list as well for much of the process. He's no stranger to Eugene. He could probably give the tour to all these recruits that are coming to campus. And I think with all the uncertainty around East Lansing, it certainly helps Oregon and Washington in the Jason Brown sweepstakes. Now, Oregon already has one running back committed that they love. They're also going to continue to try and flip Nate Frazier from Georgia out of Mater Dei. But Jason Brown is a top 10 back. They would love to land him. And then Blair, they're bringing in Tony Cumberland from Arizona, number 1 player in the state, number 2 defensive lineman in the country. We really like where Oregon stands there, don't we?
Yeah, so much buzz heading into this weekend. Coach Prime's coming into Eugene. Tony Cumberland is a player that we feel strongly right now is leaning towards the Oregon Ducks. So let's do something, Steve, that we don't really do much of. We probably should do it a little bit more often. Pulling out our phones, Tony Cumberland profile. Let's log our crystal ball predictions right now for the Ducks as it pertains to Tony Cumberland, the early 5-star prospect in that 2026 class, a top 10 player nationally, one of the best defensive linemen, and we really like, you and I, where Oregon sits right now with Tony Cumberland.